If the video game industry is a craggy, sculpted mountainside, then its cornerstones are comprised of monolithic commercial titans, the likes of Halo, Call of Duty, Metal Gear Solid, all of which I've scaled with varying degrees of accompanying disdain, but one has thus far evaded my scrutiny. With the exception of the odd offhanded comment, the Gears of War series has remained a remote blip on my figurative radar screen. On today's episode, however, it's time to break the silence and weigh in on one of the most popular Microsoft exclusives on the shelves today by analyzing the third offering in the series, with, of course, a generous peppering of the word fuck. Put the kids to bed, Rageaholics. There will be blood. I'll divulge outright that my only previous encounter with the Gears of War series was the first game. The frequency with which I've lampooned the series' trite premise and unexceptional gameplay formula notwithstanding, I'll further disclose that I enjoyed the first game on its own terms. If more considered and complex titles like Deus Ex 3 or Dragon Age Origins are tantamount to a romantic candlelit dinner followed by passionate lovemaking on a bed of rose petals, then Gears of War is the equivalent of an enchanted evening at the Dollar Theater to view Rob Schneider's latest comedic opus that culminates in a clumsy grab for the breast in the best 3.5 minutes you can possibly have in the back of a 96 Geo Metro. But as that unsettling and suspiciously detailed analogy suggests, both types of games are enjoyable. They simply appeal to either the Biltmore or the Motel 6 demographic, and pardon me for not wanting to sleep on bed sheets that when viewed under a blacklight look like a stellar cartograph of the Andromeda Galaxy. The environments are a bit like Whitney Cummings. No, that doesn't mean they're Sarah Silverman with tweezed eyebrows and no talent. It means they're pretty, but ultimately unoriginal.
You'll see a girl out at a bar, she's like 5'7", you take her home, the shoes come off, she's a gnome.
Gunplay is tight and responsive, but movement yet again feels like trying to thread a needle with a fucking rhinoceros, a malady the enemies evidently don't share with their suspiciously convenient, jerky, last-second movements making headshots completely impractical, which seems like overkill to me considering how micro-fucking-scopic all the characters' heads are. The bad guys can stand perfectly still with neon beacons featuring gun operation instructions detailing their forehead's exact location, and can still need heat-seeking bullets to so much as wing the pin-headed fuckers, which is a bit ironic because with the lambent enemies, that's effectively what the game does. I'd personally love an explanation for how a race whose most vulnerable body parts are highlighted in neon orange manages to ever make it out of the primordial morass in the first fucking place, but clearly, I need to loosen the chin strap on my thinking cap. At least when you're near death, the designers didn't swill the same Kool-Aid as Activision's Shooter Factory subsidiaries, because I'd sincerely like to step on the throat of the asshole whose twisted brain deduced the thing gamers most want to see immediately before they die is a screen smeared with raspberry jam.
Sir, the radar, sir. It appears to be jammed. Jammed. Raspberry.
If one single component siphons all enjoyment from the single-player campaign, then it would have to be the coterie of aberrant humanity known as your squad mates. If they aren't busy exploring the emerging science of cranioproctology in the middle of a doorway, precluding all other carbon-based life forms from advancing to the next scripted set piece, then they're bogarting the most valuable positions of cover or blocking your firing angle during a boss fight. Next to these motorized scooter enthusiasts, the Three Stooges look like motherfucking Delta Force. I'd recommend playing cooperatively with humans, but if the comments section at IGN is a reliable barometer for current sapient intellect, then intelligent bacteria may outstrip the average sentient stranger for common sense and critical thinking. And evidently women's suffrage has retroactively taken effect in Gears of War 3, and it seems to avail itself of every possible opportunity to show that yes, females can speak like monosyllabic Vin Diesel clones and wear homoerotic power armor as well, but what luck, as their post-apocalyptic recalcitrant escapades are evidently sponsored by the Maybelline Corporation, which in my estimation is the only viable explanation for why, despite nearly receiving an extraterrestrial airtight in every dust-caked locale in dystopia, they somehow managed to never smear their foundation.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Conversely, Marcus Phoenix's complexion seems comprised of skin grafts from Rikishi's ass. This man has a boulder for a face, folks. Metrosexual jibes from your pseudo-macho allies notwithstanding, at a certain point you really have to ask yourself what's worse, Marcus, being called a fagaloon because you decide to moisturize once this decade, or living with a forehead that doubles as a topographical map of Afghanistan. The narrative's Achilles heel is that while it suffers from delusions of grandeur, it allows its scope and weight to be repeatedly sidetracked and ultimately diluted by the innocuous bitch work your team finds themselves doing. I mean, what in blue tits does turning water valves and salvaging spare parts for a broken power generator have to do with saving the human race from planet-wide tentacle rape?
Watch the tentacles!
Would you play NBA 2K11 if the majority of the game involved tying your fucking shoes and drinking Gatorade, or would that be completely beside the fucking point? What Gears of War 3 does well, it doesn't do well enough to shake the feeling that you've played this game 2 times before. 4-player co-op is a welcome addition, but competitive multiplayer too often feels like the perpetual 200-meter dash to the nearest sniper rifle spawn point than a game of actual skill. Could you do worse than Gears of War 3? Certainly, much, much worse. You could be the catcher in an abusive relationship with a diseased gorilla, or God forbid, you could be playing Final Fantasy 13, but shh, do not speak its name lest it appear. I'm RazörFist God. Fucking speed.